What if I told you that just, staring at the midday sun could actually suppress your appetite just as effectively as those massive world-leading weight loss drugs?
Yeah, it sounds completely made up.
Right. Or that you could force your body to literally burn off calories as sheer heat just by changing how you restrict your food.
Which is wild to even think about.
Totally.
Mm.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. If you're joining us, it means you've got a healthy appetite for figuring out how things actually work under the hood.
Exactly.
We're sitting down together today to make sense of a really fascinating, highly detailed stack of research notes. It's focused on what they call the biological blueprint for metabolic and mental resilience.
And our mission today is very specific.
Yes, it is. We are totally bypassing the usual tired health cliches, like you are not going to hear any generic advice to just eat less and move more today.
Yeah, please, no more of that.
Right. Instead, we're looking at surprising, highly specific biological mechanisms that actually govern your body.
Right.
Like from why your brain desperately needs random nonsense to fall asleep, to why the actual sequence of the food on your plate matters just as much as what is, physically on it.
It's all about the signals we send our biology.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're starting with how we fuel the machine, and specifically looking at the research of Dr. Florence Comment. The core concept here is that food sequencing is this hidden lever for metabolic health.
Yeah, and it represents a really profound shift in how we think about a meal. Because, most of us look at a plate of food and we just see total calories.
Right, like, oh, this plate is 600 calories.
Exactly. But Dr. Comet's research shows that you absolutely must front-load your protein. So you want to eat your salmon, your chicken, your eggs, whatever it is, before you take a single bite of your carbohydrates.
Like the sweet potatoes or the rice?
Right. And the goal here is highly measurable. You're aiming for an undetectable fasting insulin level and an HbA1c, ideally under 5.0. That dramatically reduces your chronic disease risk.
Okay, wait, let me stop you there for a second. We hear HbA1c thrown around a lot, constantly in health circles. For the listener trying to really picture this, what exactly is that 5.0 measuring?
That's a great question. So think of your daily blood sugar reading like a pop quiz. It just tells you how you're doing in that exact moment.
Okay, it's a snapshot.
Right. Your HbA1c is your 3-month report card. It physically measures the percentage of your red blood cells that have sugar attached to them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So keeping that number under 5.0 means your blood sugar is just consistently stable over the long haul.
Which brings us to this really telling case study from the notes. There was this 50-something avid bicyclist.
Yeah, this story is crazy.
It really is. So he was training intensely, putting in serious miles on the road, but he was completely stuck. He just could not lose this stubborn 15 pounds no matter how hard he pedaled.
Which is so frustrating for anyone putting in that much work.
Totally. So Dr. Kami puts a continuous glucose monitor, a CGM, on him to see what is happening in real time. And it turned out his daily morning ritual was this seemingly harmless rusk biscuit with a cup of tea.
Just the biscuit and tea,
Yeah.
no protein at all.
None. Just that dry, carb-heavy biscuit. And the monitor revealed that this single habit was causing these severe glucose spikes, followed by steep plummets.
A total roller coaster.
Right. And when he finally dropped the biscuit from his routine, he lost 5 pounds in just 1 month.
Just from that one change.
Yeah. So let me make sure I am visualizing the physics of this correctly. If eating carbohydrates first on an empty stomach is like throwing light, dry paper onto a fire for a really quick, out-of-control blaze, is protein the heavy, dense log that keeps the fire burning slowly and steadily?
Yes, exactly. I think we can build on that fire analogy even further, actually. What's fascinating here is the underlying biological mechanism driving that fire.
Okay, lay it on me.
So when you eat carbohydrates on a completely empty stomach, your blood sugar goes sky high. Your body responds to that emergency, really, by forcing a heavy release of insulin to clear the sugar out of your blood.
Which then causes that rapid crash.
Precisely. And that crash is the exact reason you suddenly feel exhausted, irritable, and hungry an hour later. But protein, on the other hand, fundamentally alters your digestion.
How so?
It physically slows down gastric emptying. That's the rate at which food leaves your stomach.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So this creates a slow, gentle rise in both glucose and insulin. Because if you constantly spike your insulin with naked carbohydrates, you develop chronically high fasting insulin.
And that means, like, the alarm bells are constantly ringing, but your cells have essentially gone deaf to them. They stop responding to the insulin.
Right. Your cells resist the insulin. And that means diseases like type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease are just quietly brewing beneath the surface.
Just secretly developing.
Yeah, driving systemic inflammation that elevates your long-term risk for everything from dementia to cancer.
Man, that makes the sequencing of our meals feel a lot less like a diet hack and more like a strict biological imperative.
It really is.
But if how we eat controls our insulin so dramatically, the next logical step in the research looks at what happens when we restrict that fuel entirely.
Right. Which brings us to fasting, but doing it correctly.
Exactly. We're talking about Maria Emmerich's protein-sparing modified fast, or PSMF. Now, the sources are super clear here. We are not talking about extended water fasting where you just starve for days.
No, definitely not.
And we aren't talking about, like, dirty keto where people drink butter and eat bacon to force ketone production.
Right. The protocol here is to implement a highly concentrated protein diet with minimal fat and minimal carbohydrates up to 3 days a week.
Okay, so why does this work mechanically?
Well, your body constantly needs amino acids. It requires them to repair your heart, your liver, your skin.
Just to keep the lights on, basically.
Right. And if you do an extended water fast, your body still demands those amino acids. And where does it find them if you aren't eating?
I'm guessing somewhere we don't want it to.
Yeah, it literally cannibalizes your own muscle tissue. In fact, extended fasting produces nitrogen in the urine, which is a direct, measurable biomarker of muscle breakdown.
Oh, wow. And Emmerich's own story highlights exactly why this is so critical. She had been doing standard fasting and high-fat keto, and she experienced this incredibly steep health decline.
Yeah, it was scary.
She dropped down to just 82 pounds and actually landed in the hospital 3 different times because of the sheer physical stress of undereating.
It just wrecked her system.
It did. And it was only when she shifted her focus to hitting heavy protein macros through the PSMF that she was able to rebuild her metabolically active muscle, improve her skin, and stop the severe hair shedding she was dealing with.
And that is because the heavy influx of dietary protein gave her body the actual building blocks it needed for repair. When you supply external protein, the body basically says, great, I don't need to break down my own biceps and quads.
Right, it spares the muscle, hence the name.
Exactly. Meanwhile, because the total calories and dietary fats remain very low, the body is still forced to turn to its stored body fat for energy.
And the stats in the research here are just staggering. A PSMF limits muscle loss to a tiny 2% of the total weight lost.
Which is incredible.
Compare that to the standard GLP-1 weight loss drugs everyone is taking right now. Up to 50% of the weight lost on those can come from metabolically precious muscle.
Yeah, which leaves you metabolically wrecked in the long run.
Completely. But when we start burning that stored body fat safely, we enter the territory of Dr. Ben Bikman's work on ketones. Specifically, beta-hydroxybutyrate.
This is a fascinating mechanism.
It is. The research shows that low insulin and high ketones trigger a process in fat tissue called mitochondrial uncoupling. But, okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, let's hear it.
Wait, the sources say the mitochondria actually turn leaky and start wasting energy as heat.
I have to push back on this. Isn't biological efficiency supposed to be the ultimate goal? Like, why in the world do we want a leaky cellular engine? I know it sounds completely counterintuitive. We usually want our bodies to be these highly efficient machines.
Right.
But in the modern environment of endless calories, biological efficiency just means your fat cells are exceptionally good at packing away energy.
Oh, so being efficient makes us store more fat.
Exactly. Mitochondrial uncoupling transforms that thrifty white storage fat into metabolically active tissue. Think of it like revving your car's engine while it is in park.
Just burning gas but not going anywhere.
You got it. You are burning through fuel rapidly, generating a lot of heat without actually moving. Dr. Elliot Joslin actually observed this phenomenon decades before insulin therapy even existed.
Wait, really? What did he see?
Well, he noted that untreated type 1 diabetics who naturally produce zero insulin and have extremely high ketone levels had metabolic rates 15 to 20% higher than predicted for their body size.
Just naturally.
Yes. Because they lacked insulin, their cellular engines were entirely uncoupled. They literally burned off their calories as sheer body heat until an insulin injection pulled their metabolic rate firmly back down to normal.
That is wild. The notes actually mention that when human fat biopsies were exposed to ketones in a lab, their metabolic respiration climbed by 128% compared to non-ketosis samples.
It's massive.
That is a colossal amount of energy being wasted as heat rather than being stored on your waistline.
Yeah, it completely changes how we view ketosis.
So we've established how to fix the internal engine with food timing and fasting.
Mm-hmm.
As we move along, we see that our bodies are also heavily programmed by the outside world.
Environmental signals.
Exactly. Specifically, the sunlight we absorb and the physical gravity we resist.
Mm.
Let's look at Dr. Alexis Cowan's research on building what she calls a solar callus.
This is such an important concept.
Right. The protocol is safe, gradual exposure to natural sun without sunscreen, and crucially, without sunglasses.
Yeah, because a chronic lack of ultraviolet light, meaning you're always indoors or covered in sunscreen or wearing sunglasses, it basically tricks your biology.
Tricks it how?
It signals to your brain that it is eternal winter. And what does a mammal do in winter?
It hibernates, it gets fat.
Right. It enters scarcity mode, drastically prioritizing fat storage to survive the famine. But when you get midday UV light on your skin and in your eyes, it naturally produces a prohormone called POMC.
Okay.
And that gets cleaved into alpha MSH, which is a powerful hormone that drastically inhibits your appetite.
Wait, pause for a second. You're throwing out acronyms like POMC and alpha MSH. Explain that to me like I'm a 5-year-old. How exactly is sunlight acting like Ozempic?
Fair enough, fair enough. Think of your brain as a control room receiving weather reports.
Okay, tracking.
When UV light hits your eyes and skin without a filter, it sends a message to the control room saying, hey, it's high summer, food is plentiful, the days are long.
So no need to store fat.
Right. The brain responds by releasing a specific chemical cascade, that's the alpha MSH. This chemical binds to receptors that just shut down your hunger cues while simultaneously telling your body to burn more energy.
Wow.
Yeah, it mimics the exact biological pathway that blockbuster weight loss pharmaceuticals target.
That's crazy.
On top of that, blue light from the sun interacts directly with receptors located right in your subcutaneous fat, triggering the release of leptin.
And leptin is your primary hormone for feeling full and satiated, right?
Exactly.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. And Dr. Cowan shared a story about her father-in-law that really drives home how potent this environmental signaling is.
Oh, the blood pressure story.
Yes. He was in the hospital going through a hypertensive crisis. He was on 3 different blood pressure medications, and they were all failing to bring his pressure down.
Which is a terrifying situation.
Totally. So he actually checked himself out of the hospital room, walked outside, and sat in a lawn chair under the natural sun.
And what happened?
Within a single hour, his blood pressure completely normalized.
That's just incredible.
The notes attribute this to UV-catalyzed nitric oxide production in the skin. Basically, sunlight acts as a key that unlocks a chemical in your skin, which then acts as a natural blood vessel relaxer, dilating the vessels and dropping the pressure.
It perfectly illustrates how disconnected we are from these environmental cues. We hide from the sun and our metabolic clock just shatters. And we do the exact same thing with physical gravity.
Which brings us to Dr. Christina Previtt and Natalie Jill's mandate. You must lift heavy.
Yes. Heavy resistance.
They define this as a 6 or 7 out of 10 effort level, progressively adding weight, regardless of your age, to reverse what they call pre-frailty. So let me ask you, are we over-coddling our bodies? It seems like between hiding indoors from the sun and doing exclusively low-impact, comfortable cardio, we have essentially wrapped ourselves in biological bubble wrap.
We absolutely have, and that bubble wrap is acting as a rapid accelerator for muscle and bone loss. Physical inactivity leads directly to the phenotype of frailty, weakness, lethargy, slow walking speed.
Just wasting away.
Right. High-load strength training acts as a hard biological brake on that decline. It forces your neurological system and your muscular system to adapt, restoring your baseline resiliency.
Even in older folks.
Oh, especially then. During Dr. Previtt's PhD research on geriatric rehabilitation, she had men in their 70s and 80s lifting heavy weights. By the end of a 12-week protocol, these elderly men were safely deadlifting 180 to 220 pounds.
You're kidding.
Not at all. They had 0 injuries, and they entirely reversed their clinical markers of fatigue.
And the adaptation applies to every stage of life. Dr. Previtt even supported a pregnant client who hit a personal record by squatting 250 pounds at 37 weeks pregnant.
Which shatters all the old advice about bed rest.
Completely. The clinical evidence proved that this high-load strength training significantly lowered her relative risk for gestational diabetes and hypertension. Strong muscles improve bone density, protect the joints, and basically guarantee your physical independence well into your later years.
It's the ultimate anti-aging strategy.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
But all this physical resilience, the perfect protein sequencing, the mitochondrial uncoupling, the solar callus, the heavy lifting, It will completely crumble if your mind is chronically hyperactivating.
Yeah, the stress piece ruins everything if you ignore it.
We have to look at the brain, starting with how it sleeps. Dr. Matthew Walker proposes a technique called the cognitive shuffle.
This is a highly practical intervention for anyone who, lies awake, staring at the ceiling, analyzing their entire life.
We've all been there.
Right. So when you are struggling to sleep, you pick a random neutral word, let's say blanket. For the first letter, B, you visualize a series of unrelated objects. Balloon, barn, bison.
Okay, just random B word?
Yeah. Then you move to L, lemon,
Yeah.
lighthouse. You don't linger on any of them, and you absolutely do not connect them into a narrative or a story.
I'm trying to picture doing this in bed. Is this basically giving your brain a boring, nonsensical screensaver so it's forcibly detached from anxiety and forced to shut down?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, insomnia is fundamentally a state of physiological hyperactivation. Your internal engine is revving at 1,000 RPMs, despite the fact that you are physically exhausted.
Wired and tired.
Exactly. People with chronic insomnia report that a racing mind is responsible for their sleeplessness 10 times more often than any physical restlessness in the body.
10 times, wow.
Yeah. The mechanism here relies on the fact that your brain's working memory has very limited capacity. It simply cannot simultaneously process tomorrow's anxiety-inducing schedule and generate random, disconnected sensory images of balloons and lighthouses.
It's like you're overloading the circus with junk data.
Right. The cognitive shuffle mimics the fragmented, nonsensical microdreams your brain naturally produces right before it crosses the threshold into actual sleep.
So by dropping that hypervigilance, you lower the nocturnal stress hormones and allow your metabolism to actually repair itself overnight. But managing that mental hyperactivation during the daytime is just as critical. The final concept from our sources comes from former Navy SEAL Andy Stumpf. It is a stress audit called the circle of influence versus the circle of concern.
This is a great exercise.
It's such a powerful micro-habit. Whenever you wake up buzzing with anxiety, you take a physical piece of paper and draw a line right down the middle. On the left side, you write concern. You list everything stressing you out. The news, social media algorithms, other people's drama.
All the stuff you can't control.
Exactly. On the right side, you write influence. Here you list only what you actually control, your daily schedule, how you speak to yourself, what time you go to bed.
Right, and Stumpf used this exact exercise when he was facing a soul-crushing, highly contentious divorce that pushed him to his absolute physical and mental limits.
Yeah, his lowest point.
By writing it down, deliberately letting go of what he couldn't control on the left side of the page, and fiercely controlling his micro-habits on the right side, he successfully navigated a substantive trauma without breaking.
And the biology backing up that psychological shift is what really caught my eye. We burn immense amounts of metabolic and mental energy, hyperfixating on unpredictable outcomes. This spikes our cortisol and creates severe decision fatigue.
Which is exhausting.
Yeah. Pivoting your focus strictly to the influence side stops that fatigue. But even more importantly, making the slightly harder micro-discipline choices in your daily routine actually alters the brain physically. It builds resilience in a specific structure called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex.
Let's anchor that term for a second because it's important. Think of the anterior mid-cingulate cortex like a bicep muscle in your brain.
Okay.
A bicep doesn't grow when you just sit on the couch. It only grows when you force it to lift a weight. It hates lifting.
Right.
In the same way, this brain structure physically hypertrophies. It grows larger when you force yourself to do hard things that you do not want to do, like sticking to your influence list instead of doom scrolling.
It is a key biomarker that researchers have found in super-agers, those rare individuals who retain elite cognitive function well into their 90s.
It's fascinating.
It really is. Radically mitigating chronic psychological stress isn't just about feeling better in the moment. It is about structurally fortifying the brain against cognitive decline.
Absolutely.
So what does this all mean? We have covered a lot of ground today. We started by learning that the sequence of our food dictates our insulin response, with protein acting as the heavy log that keeps our metabolic fire steady. We looked at how restricted eating windows and high ketones trigger mitochondrial uncoupling, literally turning our fat cells into heat-producing engines. We explored the necessity of stepping out of the eternal winter of our indoor lives to build a solar callus, allowing UV light to act as a chemical key to regulate our appetite and blood pressure.
Don't forget the bubble wrap.
Right. We discussed the biological mandate to lift heavy weights to act as a brake against frailty. And finally, we unpacked the cognitive shuffle to trick our racing minds into sleep and the stress audit to physically grow our brain's resilience center.
It is a fundamentally different paradigm for health. It moves away from vague advice and respects the complex, highly specific cues our bodies are constantly waiting to receive.
It really does, and it leaves you with a really thought-provoking realization to mull over. We've learned today that the human body actually requires biological stress to thrive.
Yeah, we need it.
It needs the physical stress of heavy weights. It needs the metabolic stress of restricted eating windows and fasting. It needs the mild environmental sting of UV light. And it needs the mental friction of microdisciplines to grow the brain.
We're built for it.
We are. Could it be that our modern pursuit of ultimate comforts, our perfectly temperature-controlled rooms, our incredibly soft beds, our constant access to snacking, and our avoidance of all physical strain is actually the exact thing driving our modern frailty?
It's quite the paradox.
It is something to think about the next time you are tempted to avoid the hard thing. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Take just one of these concepts today, whether it is sequencing your protein, getting out into the midday sun, or trying the cognitive shuffle tonight, and test it on yourself. We will see you next time.